I'm telling you this not to criticize, but to wake you up. If you're still living the kind of life where you open your eyes each morning and only then decide what you need to do, you're making yourself a passive character in your own life. You cannot become unstoppable if every day begins with randomness. If you let the alarm clock, text messages, or the morning news decide who you are today, being unstoppable is not the result of impulsive pushes. It's the result of intentional design, and that design doesn't come from inspiration, it comes from a system. I want you to understand this clearly. The people with the greatest impact, the most unshakable achievements, are not the ones who run the fastest, but the ones who know exactly why they're running. They don't live reactively, they live by design. Every action they take has been pre-programmed, not in a robotic way, but in a deliberate one, with intention, with structure. They don't wait for emotion to start working. They work to create the emotion. I used to be like you, waking up, scrolling through my phone, dealing with a chaotic schedule, putting out one fire after another. Every day felt full, but it got me nowhere. Have you ever felt that way? Constantly doing, but never really moving forward? It's because you're living by improvisation, letting the world toss you wherever it pleases, hoping that some miracle will eventually land you where you want to be. But there are no miracles for those who aren't proactive, no success for those who wait, and no victory for those without a strategy. Take a look at the people you admire most. They may differ in career, background, or starting point, but they all share one undeniable trait. They live with a clear awareness that every hour of their day holds strategic value. They don't let randomness shape their future, they design it. They take control of their mindset, their habits, their priorities. And that's what makes them unshakable, not because they don't face difficulty, but because they don't get thrown off course by chaos. You might think, I'm not disciplined enough to live like that, but I'll tell you this. You don't need ironclad discipline to start. You only need to make one decision. From this moment forward, you will no longer live in reaction. You will redesign your day like an architect, repairing a house that's on the verge of collapse. Not to make it beautiful right away, but to make it stable first. And from that stability, you can finally begin to build upward. I'm not saying you need to plan every minute of your 24 hours. I'm simply saying you need to pause long enough to ask yourself, what do you want to happen tomorrow? And what will you do to make it happen? If you ask yourself that question every day, you've already started living differently. You're no longer a victim of your schedule, you're the one creating it. No longer reacting to last-minute messages, you're the one defining your priorities. And then something strange will happen. Your mind will feel clearer, your heart will feel lighter, your confidence will grow, bit by bit. Not because life suddenly got easier, but because you finally know why you're doing what you're doing. You're living with direction, with conviction, with the ability to say no to things that don't belong to your goals. Because in the end, the difference between someone who merely survives and someone who truly leads isn't the number of things they do, it's how they design their day. You can't be unstoppable if your day still begins with randomness. But if you're bold enough to deliberately rewrite your day, hour by hour, then your entire life, no matter where it began, can become the best version it's ever been. Not because of luck, but because of you. I'm telling you this not to complicate your life, but to simplify it to its most optimal form. Never enter a new day if you haven't finished it the night before. It may sound paradoxical, but this is the principle that separates those who are constantly swept away by chaos from those who proactively command every small movement of their lives. You don't have to be a genius to get ahead. You just have to become clear-headed earlier. In a world where most people wake up and are immediately hijacked by phones, emails, and social media, just taking 10 quiet minutes the night before to write down the 3 most important things to accomplish tomorrow already puts you ahead. I didn't learn this from books, I learned it from failure. There were times when I worked all day, yet felt like I'd accomplished nothing of real significance. The mornings started with enthusiasm, but by evening I was left with a hollow sense of meaningless busyness. Have you ever felt that way? A to-do list that keeps getting longer, yet none of it actually brings you closer to your goal? Then I realized the problem wasn't time, the problem was structure. A day without direction from the start is like a ship without a rudder. It might move, but it can never reach a destination. So I started a simple habit. Every night before I lay down to sleep, I write down the 3 most important things I need to accomplish the next day, not on my phone, by hand, on real paper. Because when you write, you force your brain to pause, to think, to clarify. And once things are clear, you're no longer dragged around by meaningless urgencies the next morning. You know exactly what matters. You wake up with purpose, not with chaos. The miracle is this: just one small action the night before can change the entire flow of the new day. You enter the morning not asking, what should I do, but standing firm in, I know exactly what I must do first. No more wasting time choosing between clutter. You focus only on three things you thoughtfully selected in last night's calm. And then you execute them with peak focus during the hours when your brain is still fresh, unpolluted by the noise of the world. And you'll come to see something powerful. When you control the beginning, you control the entire trajectory. A day that's been pre-planned doesn't just unfold more effectively, it gives you a sense of ownership, peace, and most importantly, confidence. Because in a world that constantly changes, your ability to control yourself is the only firm foundation you'll ever truly own. Someone once told me, I'm not used to planning, it feels restrictive. And I asked, so you're used to living in chaos? You might think freedom means no planning. But the truth is, real freedom only comes when you have the discipline to govern yourself. And self-mastery begins each night when you choose not to let tomorrow be a blur, but instead a day guided by intention. You don't need to write 100 goals, just three things that if completed would make today feel meaningful. And remember this, what gets written down is far more likely to come true than what merely passes through your mind. That's not superstition, that's neuroscience. When you give your brain a roadmap, it will try to follow it. But don't go to sleep with tomorrow still undefined. Don't expect to wake up feeling inspired if you left no instructions for yourself the night before. Remember, the unstoppable ones are not those who work harder, but those who prepare better. They begin before anyone else even starts to think. And that's why they stay ahead. You can be that person too, just 10 minutes each night, just one small repeated commitment, and soon you'll no longer be chasing life, you'll be leading it. I'm telling you this not to lecture you, but to wake you up. If you don't nourish your mind with wisdom every day, sooner or later, you'll find yourself feeling exhausted, confused, and falling into a strangely empty life. Because the human mind never stays still. It's either being sharpened or slowly decaying day by day. There is no neutral ground. Every thought you allow into your head is a brick you lay for your future. So if you're constantly feeding it with clickbait news, mindless social scrolling, and meaningless conversations, you're building a house with no foundation. You'll find yourself thinking shallowly, reacting vaguely, and being easily swept away by emotions instead of grounded clarity. I used to make all kinds of excuses not to read: too busy, too tired, can't focus, no time. But the truth is, I had time to scroll on my phone, time to listen to people complain, time to waste energy on things that brought zero value. What I didn't have was priority. And when I changed that, when I decided to spend at least 20 minutes a day feeding my mind with fresh perspectives, sharp insights, and timeless truths, I realized my inner world began to move. Do you know what happens when you start your day not with messages or emails, but with a piece of inspiring writing? The way you see others will change. The way you respond to challenges will change. The way you think about yourself will change. Wisdom works like that. It doesn't need to announce itself. But once absorbed, it shows up in the way you look at life, the words you choose to speak, the decisions you make when no one's watching. And the miracle is, you don't need to do much to begin. Just pick one valuable book and read 10 pages a day. You don't need to read the whole library. Just read consistently, because 10 pages a day adds up to over 3,600 pages a year. It's 10 to 15 books, more than what 90% of adults never read again after leaving school. I'm not urging you to read to impress. I'm urging you to read to build. Because reading doesn't just bring knowledge into your mind, it sharpens your focus, strengthens your discipline, and breathes oxygen into thinking that has long been frozen by too much noise. Every page is a moment of stillness where you are alone with ideas that are bigger, deeper, sharper. Where you don't just learn something new, but reflect on who you really are. Imagine your mind as a garden. If you don't tend to it, it doesn't stay empty. It still grows, but only weeds, petty thoughts, shallow assumptions, borrowed beliefs. And then you end up living a life ruled by things that were never truly yours. But if you start planting seeds of wisdom, solid principles, deep questions, fresh perspectives, you won't just control that garden. You'll make it bloom with things that bring goodness into your life. I saw this most clearly during times when I felt the most lost, when work got messy, when pressure spiked, when emotions wobbled. I didn't turn to entertainment, I turned to wisdom. A timely passage, a meaningful quote, a powerful idea. It might not make the problem disappear, but it made me bigger than the problem. And once you're bigger than the problem, it can no longer consume you. You solve it with a clear head, with vision, with depth. So let me ask you, when was the last time you fed your mind with wisdom? A podcast, a book, a powerful lecture? What did you nourish your mind with yesterday, today, or did you just leave it to endure a non-stop stream of digital trash? If you're serious about becoming unstoppable, stop starving your mind. Feed it daily, like brushing your teeth, like drinking water. Make it a habit, not flashy, just consistent. Because the one who masters their thoughts masters their actions. The one who masters their actions masters their outcomes. The one who masters their outcomes is the one who rewrites their life from the inside out. Not through frantic effort, but through quiet refinement, every day, without breaking the promise. I used to think that as long as I had a sharp mind and strong willpower, I could overcome any challenge. But I was wrong, because no matter how grand your vision is, no matter how detailed your plan may be, if your body isn't strong enough to carry it, everything will remain just an idea. I'm telling you this not to scare you, but to wake you up. Your body isn't just a shell. It's the only vehicle your intelligence can ride to create a meaningful life. You can't fly if your wings are tired. You can't think deeply if your mind is fogged from lack of sleep. You can't take bold action if your body constantly feels sluggish, heavy, and drained. And the irony is, most people take better care of their phones than they do their bodies. Charging the phone every night, wiping the screen every morning, checking storage regularly. But they skip meals, skimp on sleep, avoid movement. Do you really think you can live well long-term like that? How can you reach the heights of your spirit if the vehicle you're riding is breaking down, out of fuel, and leaking air? I'm not saying you need to become an athlete or live like a fitness model. I'm talking about movement, intentional movement to sustain life, to preserve your spirit, to protect your energy. You might be the smartest person in the room, but if you don't have the stamina to sustain a full day's work, you'll always be left behind by people who are simply more enduring. You might have the most creative plan, but if you lack the strength to execute it, that plan will stay forever on paper. Your body is not secondary, it's foundational. And anyone who understands this will start caring for themselves not when illness strikes, but while they're still healthy. That's long-term thinking, and it's exactly what will take you further than most. Be honest with me. When was the last time you moved on purpose? Not walking around during work, but purposeful movement. Walking to clear your mind, breathing to restore your energy, stretching to release emotion. Just 15, 20 minutes a day. That's all. You don't need a gym. You don't need fancy equipment. You just need to understand this. Movement creates momentum. Momentum creates action, and action creates results. Want a clearer mind? Start by waking your body up each morning. Want to focus longer at work? Take a 5-minute walk instead of reaching for your phone. Want better sleep? Let your body burn energy properly first. I've been there, so burned out I sat in front of my computer with a frozen brain, not because I lacked ideas, but because my body was too drained to turn those ideas into action. And so I changed. I started sleeping earlier, eating cleaner, moving gently each morning, drinking more water, cutting back on caffeine, walking instead of sitting all day. Sounds simple, because it is simple. But that simplicity is exactly what most people overlook. They wait until health issues arise, until the body screams, until work stalls, emotions crash, and only then do they scramble to take care of their health. But by then, what you lose isn't just money, it's opportunity. I want you to understand this. Health isn't just about living longer, it's about living better. It's about waking up without fatigue, working without losing focus, speaking while your eyes still shine, making decisions with a steady mind. And all of that, none of it is possible if you don't maintain the vehicle of your intelligence. Your body doesn't ask for much. It just needs you not to neglect it, not to dismiss it, not to treat it like something that will always run forever on its own. Caring for your body is a form of self-respect. It's a silent commitment to your future. It's how you say, I take my life seriously enough to start with the most basic foundation. And when your body functions well, you'll surprise yourself. Ideas arrive faster, thinking becomes clearer, decisions sharpen, actions become bolder. Life begins to have quality, not because you're doing more, but because you're doing it better. So no, I'm not telling you to train like a pro athlete or follow a strict diet. I'm telling you to start small. A 15-minute walk each morning, a full 7 hours of sleep each night, water instead of sugar, standing up instead of sitting endlessly, deep breathing instead of swallowing stress. Don't wait until your body rebels to finally care. Act while you're still in control. Because once you lose your physical foundation, you're also losing the path to where you truly deserve to go. I want to tell you a simple truth that many people overlook. Goals don't disappear, but they can easily get buried. Not because you're not serious, but because life is full of distractions. Too many urgent things get in the way of what's truly important. And if you don't have the habit of revisiting your goals daily, you won't need a big disruption to go off course. You'll slowly drift away from the path you chose, little by little, in silence. I used to think that setting a goal once was enough. Write it down, stick it on the wall, tell myself I would make it happen. But after a few days, then a few weeks, I realized I was working hard, but not really getting closer to anything specific. Like a boat drifting in the middle of the ocean, it may be moving, but has no idea where it's going. And then I understood. Setting the goal is just the first step. Repeating the goal every day is what helps you stay on track. Without constant recalibration, even the best map is useless. When you don't revisit your goal, you forget why you started. You become more susceptible to other people's expectations. You get pulled towards surface-level outcomes, comparisons, and noise. You start doing things because you have to, not because they truly matter to you. And eventually you feel tired, not from lack of motivation, but from no longer being certain what you're even chasing. I began to change when I established a small habit. Each morning, before my phone rings, before emails come in, I read my goal out loud, clearly and apologetically. I don't just read it with my eyes, I read it with my mind. I visualize the outcome, I feel the emotion of achieving it. I remind myself why I must stay committed. And you know what? That one small action changed the way I walked into every single day. When you start the day with your goal in mind, you behave differently. You choose different tasks. You say no to what doesn't serve your goal, not out of coldness, but out of clarity. You save so much energy simply by not wasting it on irrelevant things. And you begin to build something even more powerful than motivation, consistency. I know some people will say, I already know my goal, I don't need to repeat it every day, but I'm telling you, knowing doesn't mean remembering, and remembering doesn't mean acting. Every day the world pulls you in 100 directions. If you don't consciously pull yourself back to your center, you'll drift away from yourself without even realizing it. Look around. How many people started with fire in their hearts only to lose it because they got caught up in the busyness? Not because they were weak, but because they forgot the goal. How to change your life? Don't just write your goal down at the beginning of the year. Write it every month. Read it every morning. Repeat it every night. Put it where you can see it every day. The bathroom mirror, your phone wallpaper, your desk corner. The closer your goal is to your eyes, the deeper it goes into your mind. And once it's in your mind, your actions will start revolving around it naturally. I used to doubt the practice of saying goals out loud every day, but then I saw, when you say something enough times, you begin to believe it. When you believe it deeply enough, you begin to act on it. And when action becomes consistent, you create results. No force, no struggle, just persistence. Belief doesn't come from emotion. It comes from deliberate repetition. So I want you to pause and ask yourself, do you still remember why you started? Is what you're doing today bringing you closer to that? If not, you need to realign. Not the dream, but the direction. And to do that, you must talk to your goal every day. Not just write it, but read it, feel it, live with it. Because if you don't repeat your goal, it'll be replaced by worries, distractions, other people's expectations, or worse, by compromise. But if you dare to keep your goal in sight, within reach, and in your mind every single day, you'll be amazed at how fast your life begins to change. No miracle needed, Just don't ever forget why you started. I'm telling you this not to make you feel like you owe someone, but to help you understand a deeper principle. Gratitude is not a reaction, it's a life strategy. And if you're wise enough to practice it every morning, you'll notice something undeniable. Your mind feels lighter, your heart softens, and your spirit recharges from within without needing help from anyone else. Most people wake up and are instantly pulled into a state of lack. They think about what they haven't done, what they don't have, the things that are worrying them. They open their eyes and see responsibilities, obligations, fears, and it's no surprise that their entire day passes in fatigue, reactivity, and stress. But it's not because their life is too hard. It's because the way they activate their mind is too negative. The feeling, I've been there. Waking up feeling heavy, sighing at my schedule, feeling like the world is against me. But then I tried something very small. Every morning, before reaching for my phone, I would sit still, open a blank page, and write down 3 things I was grateful for. They didn't have to be grand, just real. A warm glass of water, a gentle rain outside, a kind message from the day before. Just 3 small things, but once written down, once truly felt, they opened something strange inside me, peace. And from that peace, I had the energy to enter the day, not rushed, not panicked, but grounded. What do you think gratitude is? Saying thank you? A fleeting emotion when luck finds you? No. Gratitude is a lens through which you see life. When you choose to put on that lens every morning, you see the same world, but with a different state of mind. You no longer only notice what's missing, you start seeing what's already present. And when you focus on what is, you begin to live from a place of enough, not lack. I'm not talking about complacency, I'm talking about awareness. Because only when you recognize what you already have can you move toward greater things with true strength. Grateful people aren't without ambition, they're just grateful for the journey, not just the result. They may not be at the finish line, but they cherish every small step forward. And it's that mindset that keeps them grounded through the toughest phases. Have you ever seen someone go through adversity yet still remain calm, gentle, quietly strong? I'll bet they all have one thing in common. Gratitude isn't something they wait to feel once things are good. It's something they choose to hold even when things are still imperfect. If you want to live lighter, deeper, more mindfully, start with gratitude. It doesn't have to be complicated, just make space for it every morning before the world grabs your attention. Sit down, close your eyes, take a slow breath, and ask, what am I grateful for today? Write down 3 things. Look at them, feel them, just a few minutes like that each morning, and you're building an inner safe zone no one can take away from you. I know you may be carrying a lot, work, family, the future, but I also know that beneath all that weight, there's still something you have, something worthy of your gratitude. And that very thing, if you're sensitive enough to notice it, will become the anchor that helps you rise, keep going, and grow stronger day by day. You don't need a miracle to feel at peace. You just need to look back at the right moment. Gratitude doesn't demand that you have more. It only asks that you see what you already have. And once you do, you'll realize joy doesn't come from having more, but from feeling more deeply. Happiness doesn't have to wait until everything is okay. It begins the moment you choose to see life through a gentler gaze. So if you want more life energy, more clarity, more wisdom each morning, don't just drink coffee. Take a sip of gratitude and let your spirit recharge from within. Every day, without fail, it's the most sustainable fuel you can ever produce on your own, even when everything outside is still uncertain. And that right there is what will make you unstoppable, from the inside out. I used to think words were fleeting, spoken and forgotten without lasting impact. But then I started paying attention, not to others, but to myself. I noticed that on days I said, I'm tired, I truly ran out of energy faster. I noticed that whenever I blurted out, this is too hard, my brain instantly shut down all solutions. I noticed that every time I muttered, I can't do this, my actions afterward became just as hesitant and uncommitted as those words. And that's when I began to understand words are not harmless. They're a form of programming. They rewrite the subconscious, they determine whether you move forward or stay stuck. You could be reprogramming your future every single day without even realizing it. Every word you speak about yourself, the world, or others is a line of code. When you say, I'm not good enough, your brain believes it and stops trying to learn. When you say, "I'm always unlucky," your brain records every minor failure as proof to reinforce that story. And over time, you no longer live according to reality, you live according to the script your mouth has repeated over and over until you believe it. But I know you don't mean to. No one ever taught you that every word you say is a powerful suggestion to your nervous system. But now that you do know, you have a choice. Either continue letting your language unconsciously control your life, or start consciously controlling your language. And when you do the latter, you're no longer a victim of reflex. You become the architect of your mind. I'm not saying you have to lie to yourself or fake positivity. I'm saying learn to speak what you want to build, not what you fear. Try changing "I can't do this" to "I'm learning how to do this." Instead of saying "I always face difficulties," say "I'm getting stronger with every challenge I overcome." Sounds simple, but I promise you, when you change your language, you change your thought patterns. And when you change your thoughts, you change your actions. And actions are what shape your life. I once spoke with a smart, capable woman, full of potential, yet she constantly said things like, "I'm not good enough. I'm not like other people. I'm just average." No one forced those words out of her, but she'd heard them in her mind for so long, they became second nature. And every time she said them out loud, she buried herself deeper in limitation. No one had to put her down. She did it to herself, with words alone. So let me ask you, the way you speak about yourself, is it building you up or locking you in? The way you speak about your future, is it opening doors or closing possibilities? Be honest. Listen to yourself for one day. What do you say most? Complaints, judgments, limits, or encouragement? Vision, choice. I've trained myself into a new habit. Each day, I say at least 3 positive statements about myself and the future I'm creating. No one else has to hear them. I say them for me. I say them to reshape my thinking. I say them so my subconscious understands this is the path I choose, not something I was pushed into. And over time, those words started to embed themselves into my actions. I became bolder, more confident, and most powerfully, I stopped sabotaging my opportunities with careless phrases. I'm not claiming words are magic, but I am telling you this: they are the most powerful tool you use every day, often without realizing it. And if you're mindful enough to refine that tool, you'll see life start responding to you in very different ways. So starting today, speak consciously. Speak as if you're writing the script of your life, because that's exactly what you're doing. And if you want your future to change, start by speaking what's worthy of your best self. Not to impress others, but so you believe. And when you believe, you act. And when you act, life begins to bend around the words you once dared to say. I've met many people with strong willpower, clear goals, and packed schedules, yet they still don't move forward the way they hope to. And after a while observing, I noticed one common trait. They're busy living, but never take the time to learn from their own lives. Each day passes with countless actions taken, decisions made, emotions felt. But come nightfall, they turn off the lights, crawl into bed, scroll through their phones for a bit, and fall asleep, as if there's nothing to reflect on. And just like that, today becomes a repeat of yesterday, and tomorrow becomes a copy of today. You can't become unstoppable if every day slips through your fingers without leaving behind a single lesson. I'm not saying you have to overanalyze every move, but if you truly want to grow, you want to live better, deeper, smarter, there's one thing you must do. Before you sleep, learn from yourself. Look at your day. What was worth remembering? What felt off? What needs to be adjusted? Because if you don't pause to reflect, you'll unconsciously carry today's small mistakes into the rest of your life. Not because you mean to, but because you never realized you were doing anything wrong. I started this habit when I noticed I kept making the same types of mistakes. Procrastinating in the morning, overreacting under pressure, being unclear in meetings. Each mistake was small, but the consequences stacked up. So I tried something. Every night before sleep, I gave myself 10 minutes, no phone, no screens, just paper, pen, and 3 questions. 1, what did I do well today? 2, what could I have done better? 3, what will I change tomorrow? It sounds simple, but it created an invaluable space for me to have a conversation with myself. No judgment, no blame, just observation. And that observation helped me realize I don't need to change the whole world, just change myself a little each day. You can't improve what you never examine. You can't fix a mistake you keep running from. You can't grow if you don't understand why you're stuck. And you can't accidentally become wiser. You can only do that by digging into your most ordinary experiences. Some people say, I don't have time to reflect at night, but you have time to scroll online, to let your thoughts wander, to worry aimlessly before bed. So you absolutely have time to look back on your day. You don't need to write a long journal, you just need to be honest with yourself. Close your eyes and ask, was there something I said today that I shouldn't have? Was there something I didn't do that I should have? Was there something I did well that I should expand on? And if so, how will I choose differently tomorrow? Reflection is not weakness. It is a mark of intelligence. The unstoppable are not those who are always right. They are the ones who are always learning. And learners don't wait until pain forces them to change. They adjust early when things are still small before consequences show up. Because they know a mistake that goes unexamined overnight will quietly turn into a habit that kills potential. I don't need you to be perfect right away. I just need you to be humble enough to face yourself each night. Just 10 minutes, and you can shift your entire journey. Because if you learn from today, you won't repeat it tomorrow. And if you don't repeat those small errors 365 times a year, you'll save yourself thousands of hours of unnecessary failure. I treat each day like a draft. When it's written, you have to reread, cross out, revise, so that tomorrow becomes an upgraded version. And if you do that long enough, one day you'll look back and barely recognize who you used to be. Not because you forced yourself to change, but because you evolved, quietly and gently, through the habit of learning every day. So tonight, before you close your eyes, don't let today slip away unnoticed. Reclaim it, extract its lessons, and then put it to rest with peace. Not because you are perfect, but because you're moving forward, night by night, day by day, in a way no one may see, but you'll know for sure you're on the right path. So a few seconds and think about this. And all the things you're trying to change, how many times have you skipped a small action just because it was too small? Not urgent enough to do right now, not big enough to produce noticeable results. You think, just this once won't hurt. And day by day, those just once moments become an invisible system quietly running your life without you even realizing it. I'm not talking about major decisions or grand leaps. I'm talking about the extremely small, extremely ordinary things, so ordinary that you allow yourself to ignore them. And in the end, it's the things you don't do that are silently rewriting your future in a direction you never wanted. There was a time in my life when I kept saying, I'll start tomorrow, with things like reading, exercising, planning, or thinking positively. Back then, I didn't notice any immediate consequences. No one scolded me. Nothing major was lost. But what I didn't realize was that every time I delayed something small, I was digging a tiny dent in my discipline. And when those dents piled up, I slowly became someone who operated based on emotion instead of commitment. I began to live according to circumstances instead of goals. On the outside, everything looked fine, but inside I knew I was being worn down by my own leniency. You might think skipping a workout, a page of reading, or a minute of silence won't change anything, but here's the truth. Your life is not shaped by the big actions you take once in a while. It's shaped by the small things you do or don't do every single day. Just like a single drop of water can't dent stone, but if it falls daily, it will eventually carve deep. Life is the same. The results you have today come from accumulated from thousands of quiet, unseen choices. I once met a man who told me he didn't have time to change his habits. I asked him one question. Do you have 5 minutes a day? He nodded, and I said, then it's not time you're lacking, it's priority. Because just 5 minutes a day to read, to reflect, to plan, to move, repeated over 365 days, will create a completely different version of you. You don't need to wait for a 3-hour window. You just need to take each small window seriously. The problem is, what's easy to do is also easy not to do. Writing down 3 things you're grateful for each morning, easy. Also easy to skip. Reading 10 pages of a book, easy, also easy to forget. Doing a few stretches, too simple. And because it's so simple, you convince yourself it's okay to skip. But I promise you, it's those it's okay things that are actually shaping you the most. No one's judging you today for whether you did or didn't do that small task. But a month from now, 6 months, a year, you'll see a different version of yourself. Someone sharper, calmer, stronger. Or the opposite, someone more reactive, more distracted, more directionless. And that difference won't come from one grand decision. It'll come from how you handle the things that seem harmless every day. So I'm not asking you to do extraordinary things. I'm challenging you to be consistent with the ordinary. Do one small thing reliably, repeat one positive action, keep one small promise. Don't underestimate waking up on time, making your bed, drinking enough water, planning your day, or saying one kind thing to yourself. These things won't cost you much, but they'll return something huge. Quiet confidence, strong self-mastery, and the feeling that you're truly on the right track. I don't believe in transformation born from a burst of inspiration. I believe in transformation born from small, conscious behaviors repeated over time. If you keep waiting for the right time, enough energy, or perfect conditions, you'll continue to overlook the small things. And if you overlook them long enough, you'll lose yourself without even noticing. So I'll leave you with one question. What small thing are you still skipping every day, and how much longer will you keep skipping it? Because sooner or later, that one thing, not something big, will define who you are. And I hope you'll choose to act, not because you have to, but because you know a great life is built from small details, repeated, driven by uncompromising commitment. I won't tell you that life is always fair or that everything you desire will come just because you work hard. Because the truth is, you can't control the world. You can't control the weather, the market, other people's emotions, or the unexpected events that shake everything up. There will always be situations beyond your prediction, people beyond your understanding, and outcomes beyond your effort. But I will tell you this, something no one can ever take away from you: you can fully control your own habits. That is the one area of life where you have complete authority. Every morning you wake up, you can choose to start with your phone or with stillness. Every time you face difficulty, you can choose to react impulsively or respond intentionally. Every day you can choose between procrastination and action. And those choices, however small, are where you rewrite yourself little by little until you become a version of you that even you didn't know was possible. I used to fall into the trap of thinking, I can't control anything whenever I faced hardship, but then I realized I can't control the flow of life, but I can control how I paddle through it with the rhythm of my own strokes. And those strokes are my habits. They are the quiet operating system running beneath every conscious action I take. If you don't build it intentionally, your subconscious will build it for you, and the result is usually chaos. The dangerous thing is this: habits don't wait until you're ready. They form from what you repeat, whether positive or negative. If you keep putting off important things, you're building a habit of delay. If you keep indulging in negative emotions, you're forming a habit of reaction. And then you end up living a life as if you're being dragged by a chain one you tie to yourself day by day, simply by letting things happen without conscious choice. But what if you reversed that? What if you started rewriting the system? What if you picked one positive action, just one, and repeated it with commitment every day? Imagine starting by waking up on time. That leads to quiet morning time. That stillness leads to reading. Reading sharpens your thinking. Sharper thinking improves your decision making. Better decisions create better results, and better results shape a stronger version of you, not overnight, but through a chain of small, disciplined actions repeated daily. I used to think change came from inspiration, that one day I'd wake up and feel ready to live differently. But the truth is, inspiration comes and goes like the wind. Habits are what anchor you when your mind is spinning. Habits free you from dependence on motivation. They build a version of you that you can trust, even on days when you don't feel like it. You want success not because of luck, but because you've reprogrammed your own system. You want to live with purpose, not because life is easy, but because you've built small, repeated patterns that give you direction. Habits are the most loyal companion you'll ever have, if you learn how to make them serve you instead of letting them control you. I'm not asking you to change everything. I'm only asking you to choose one small habit, the right one, and start repeating it. It doesn't have to be fast, just consistent. Plan your day every morning, reflect every night, say one kind word to yourself daily, take one deep breath each hour. Sounds small, but these small acts are what will keep your mind steady in a constantly shifting world. Because in the end, you won't be remembered for what you thought, you'll be remembered for what you did. And what you do every day is the direct result of the habits you've chosen. The world may not favor you, but if you build a behavior system that's strong enough, right enough, you can shift your inner world, no matter what's happening outside. And that's what makes you unstoppable. Not that you control everything, but that you control yourself well enough that nothing else gets to control you. Start today. Start with one small habit, and never underestimate the power of what you repeat daily, because that is the shape of your future, growing quietly within you.